Australians donating tens of thousands to Gaza aid organisation accused of funneling funds to Islamic terrorist group behind hijackings and suicide bombings. Sky News Australia. Sign up. Log in. World News. Australians donating tens of thousands to Gaza aid organisation accused of funneling funds to Islamic terrorist group behind hijackings and suicide bombings. Sky News Australia can reveal a registered Australian charity is sending money to a Gaza-based health organisation accused of being affiliated with the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine terror group. Shari Markson, Sky News host. 5 minutes read. Australians have been donating tens of thousands of dollars to an aid organisation in Gaza that's been accused of funneling the money to a hardline Islamic terrorist group. Sky News can reveal the charity founded by the Australia-Palestine Advocacy Network president Nasser Mashni is sending money to a Gaza-based health organisation that is accused of being affiliated with the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine terror group, known as the PFLP. The PFLP, responsible for hijacking planes, assassinations and suicide bombings, is a designated terrorist organisation in the United States, the European Union and Canada, while Australia has the group on its consolidated list of organisations subject to financial sanctions. NGO Monitor says the links between the PFLP and the aid organisation, the Union of Health Work Committees, UHWC, are so extensive that any funding supporting it is in violation of international terror financing laws and incompatible with human rights principles. Israeli officials believe the UHWC is a front for the PFLP and declared it an illegal organisation in early 2020. Mashni is a founding and current board member of registered Australian charity, Olive Kids, which claims to support Palestinian children and orphans. One of the 4 partners it sends funds to is the Union of Health Work Committees, UHWC, a non-governmental organisation that says it provides health services in Gaza with focus on women and children. Olive Kids collaborates with UHWC to facilitate annual Australian medical missions to operate Al-Orda Hospital, its website states. Olive Kids specifies, in its 2020-21 annual report, that as part of their emergency appeal for Gaza, $30,000 was sent for urgent medical supplies and consumables for the UHWC Medical Centre and the Al-Orda Hospital. Another $15,000 was given for fuel for generators for UHWC for critical energy shortages. Olive Kids has been working with UHWC since at least 2014, according to its annual reports. Its 2016 report said that, in collaboration with the Union of Health Work Committees, UHWC, Olive Kids facilitated an Australian medical mission to Al-Orda Hospital in Gaza. A January 2020 report by the Israel-based NGO Monitor, which has been set up to assess non-governmental organisations claiming to advance human rights, identifies extensive ties between UHWC and the PFLP terror group. UHWC's terror affiliation is antithetical to human rights norms and principles, it said. Due to its affiliation with the PFLP, the provision of funds to UHWC is in likely violation of international, EU and domestic terror financing and material support laws. The organisation is therefore an inappropriate partner for governments and individuals seeking to further human rights in the region. Israel declared the UHWC to be an illegal organisation in January 2020 and raided its headquarters in March the following year, seizing files, before arresting 7 employees and affiliates by May. The investigation alleged that UHWC was overcharging international donors for medical equipment, among other legitimate projects, and funneling the remaining money to the PFLP. Washington Institute fellow Matthew Levitt, who is also the director of its counterterrorism and intelligence program, wrote a report in 2021 examining the evidence against NGOs like UHWC providing funding to the PFLP. According to the Israeli indictment of Tizir Abu Sharbak, one of the 4 UHWC employees arrested in May 2021, the NGOs in question employed a variety of money laundering schemes to obfuscate their role as PFLP fronts, he wrote. First, they forged documents and receipts to significantly inflate the cost of a given project as presented to donors. The difference from these inflated invoices would go to the PFLP. The NGOs also presented foreign donors forged invoices for purchases that were either never made at all or made for a fraction of the stated cost. The UHWC is also alleged to have forged receipts for a project to supply medicines in East Jerusalem, claiming it would cost 2.4 million shekels, when it was only 100,000 shekels. The remaining funds were redirected to the PFLP, Levitt's report states. In another case, Israeli authorities say evidence documents how the UHWC told donors a project to vaccinate Palestinian children would cost €245,000, when the actual cost was a mere 2,500 shekels, less than €700, and most of the money was siphoned off for the PFLP. Levitt concludes that the NGOs, including UHWC, clearly do engage in civil society work and have partnered with the United Nations and human rights organizations for such work, but he also warns that at a minimum, governments, civil society organizations and human rights groups need to address the evidence underlying the Israeli allegations to determine if the organizations with which they have been partnering to further human rights employ the same people who are criminally responsible for the PFLP attacks. Many employees at the UHWC are also members of the PFLP. The history between UHWC and the PFLP dates to the charity's very inception. A USAID document, dated 1993, states that the UHWC is the PFLP's health organization. The PFLP's healthcare network is coordinated by the Union of Health Work Committees, UHWC, it states. As a significant provider of healthcare during the Intifada, the UHWC has an extended network of supporters and volunteers throughout the West Bank. Of all the factionalized healthcare committees, the UHWC has the greatest presence in the Gaza Strip. Thus far, the UHWC has been more successful than the Union of Agricultural Works Committee, the PFLP's agricultural organization, at maintaining its market share of development aid in the current posturing, although its prospects under most autonomy scenarios are not bright. The PFLP is responsible for the 2014 massacre in a Jerusalem synagogue where 5 people were killed, including 3 American rabbis and a policeman, a 2015 attack on Israelis driving a car, an assassination plot against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and a 2012 attack involving firing an anti-tank missile explosive device. PFLP was also responsible for spate of suicide bombings in 2002 to 2004 which killed Israeli civilians, and the assassinations of Israeli Minister for Tourism Rehavam Zeevi and Israeli Head of Security Meir Lichtenberg in 2001. Its first major attack was in 1968 when it hijacked a commercial El Al flight and held hostages captive for 40 days. As Israel's war in Hamas enters its second month, the international community has been eager to send humanitarian funds into Gaza, with Australia sending $25 million so far. The Israeli government has claimed international aid in the past has been exploited and misused to support terrorism, including financing Gaza's network of underground tunnels and weapons. Sky News asked Mashni if he was aware of the connections between UHWC and the PFLP, how much money had been sent by Olive Kids to UHWC and whether he was concerned that money intended for Palestinian children could end up with a terror group. He did not respond to the questions, but Olive Kids chairman, Amin Abbas, replied to say the organization was raising funds in Australia to support orphan children in the occupied Palestinian territories. Every cent raised in Australia goes directly to support these children in their health and education, he said. Olive Kids is registered with the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission. The charity operates, fundraises and distributes its revenue in full compliance with all ACNC conduct standards, and is financially audited annually, demonstrating transparency in both its fundraising and expenditure processes. The Sydney Morning Herald reported on Thursday that Mashni had advocated for the destruction of the Israeli state and claimed the world's power structures all focus upon Zionism. Add your comment to this story. To join the conversation, please log in. Don't have an account? Register. Join the conversation, you are commenting as log out. Sign up. Log in. Members connect with Sky News newsletters commenting guidelines. About US TV guide about Sky News the skynews.com.au teen careers content sales and licensing media releases legal corrections. Contact us feedback and complaints partner with Sky News technical facts. Our news network the Australian Daily Telegraph Herald Sun Courier Mail Adelaide Now. Our partners Sky News on Flash Foxtel Sky News Regional Australia Channel Program Partners. Our apps. Privacy policy. Relevant ads opt-out. Cookie policy. Terms of use.